Welcome to the Natural Medicine Mamas podcast, where our vision is to help families stay and be healthy using natural methods for the body, mind, and soul. We encourage self-reliance in any medicine practice for your family, and our products and advice are designed to help you learn more about caring for your family with herbs. Now introduce your hosts, Paula, Andrea, Nisha, Kalea, and Goldie, your Natural Medicine Mamas. You can find us at naturalmedicinemamas.com.
Okay, hello, this is Andrea Palmer with Natural Medicine Mamas. We're excited about talking to you today. I'm going to let Mom introduce what we're going to talk about specifically in just a second. But I just wanted to mention really fast that you can find us at www.naturalmedicinemamas.com. And just wanted to reiterate about our vision really fast with helping families. We really feel so strongly about helping families to be healthy, to stay healthy. We also really encourage self-reliance. A lot of times with the different things we talk about, we'll talk about the packets that we put together. But overall, we want to make sure to emphasize that we do want you to be self-reliant with all of this and learning how to take care of your family with herbs. We're really passionate about that. So today, speaking of that, I will turn the time over to Mom, to Paula, and she will give us the introduction of what we're going to be talking about with our herbs today.
Thanks, Andrea. We have an Herb of the Month club that people can sign up for. The details are actually on our website. If you look at the bar at the top, you can see it. But for this fall season, we wanted to get out the products for people to use in the fall that can help through the cold and flu season. And so that's why we wanted to do some podcasts on those products so everyone who gets these through Herb of the Month Club or purchasing them will know better how to use them. First of all, Kalea was going to, since we did elderberry syrup for August of this year, we're going to talk about elderberry syrup today, and Clay's going to walk us through for a few minutes about the ingredients. First of all, you need to know that the ingredients are listed on our website with details about each of them and how they contribute to the mix and helping your body get better. But she is the expert on knowing how all these little goody plants work together, and so she's going to talk to us about that a little bit. Go ahead, Kalea.
Like Mom said, you can find the ingredient list on naturalmedicinemamas.com, and then there's a little spot where you can click read more about the ingredients or whatever. You click on that, and then it takes you to a list. Obviously, the first ingredient are elderberries. They are amazing. One of the greatest benefits of the elderberries is that, at least for the people in the American Northwest, we have them growing everywhere. To me, that is a great signal, at least in this area, that they're meant to be used by people who live here. And there are a lot of other berries in the world that can benefit us, but the elderberries are specifically for us. They're amazing, and what they do is they boost the production of immune cytokines, and those can be, most of the time, that can be a really good thing. And Andrea's going to talk a little bit more about that later on, about when that could be actually a detrimental thing. And we also have an article on that underneath our blog tab. Basically what it does is it boosts your immune system so that you're better able to fight off sickness. So they're really awesome. And then the next thing we have on our list is the echinacea. Echinacea is one of those things that you're actually not supposed to take for a long period of time. It's not something that you just want to take every day for the rest of your life. It's specialized. During the duration that you would take it for a cold is not too long. That would be just fine. So don't worry about taking it too long if you're just taking it for when you get sick. Oh, I'll just insert this here because I always remember this when I think about echinacea, and that is a lot of people, when they get sick, they'll go to the store and they'll think, oh, I want to take something natural for this, and there's echinacea on the shelf. I think I'll try that. And then they take it once or twice, and then they don't get better, and they go, oh, well, these herbs don't do anything. And the real reason why echinacea actually really does work, it is very effective. But the rule when treating with herbs at any point is early, often, and after. So as soon as you can, and we'll talk a little bit more about when. Andrea's going to talk about when to take it, but just remember that rule of thumb, early, often, and after, and you'll have better luck. And then the next ingredient is ginger. Ginger is awesome because it's a stimulant, and it's also very warming. And so it stimulates your body to start moving things around and to be able to get them moved out of your body. It's very warming, which usually when you start getting a cold, you need the warming effect in order for your body to do what it needs to do. And another thing to remember with all of these herbs is that what they're doing, your body already knows how to fight off a cold, and that's why it starts producing mucus and things like that. It's for a good reason. And what these herbs do is that it supports your body in those things. And so keep that in mind also as you listen to the ingredients. So the next one is rose hips. Rose hips are very, very high in vitamin C. They're basically, if you take enough vitamin C, there is not a virus out there that you can't kill if you have enough vitamin C. And so rose hips are very high in that. They're higher than I think all the citrus plants. It's amazing. There's a really good reason why we put that in there. The last one that we have in there is cinnamon. And it is another really good support for when you have a cold or digestion issues or flus, antiviral, and it also has some other nutrients in there that helps to support your body while your body's trying to fight off a sickness. So the other thing that I want to point out is that although we have these other ingredients in here, the echinacea, the ginger, the rose hips, and the cinnamon, but you don't need those. It's called elderberry syrup for a reason. So we have them in our packet because they do really well when they're synchronized together and they work together. They work together really well. But if you were in a situation where you wanted to pick your own for whatever reason, or if you had some available right there, all you would need is the elderberry. If you wanted to just make the syrup, all you need to take was that. One of the cool things, though, is at least if you go up into the mountains, at least the mountains around me, is that elderberries and wild roses grow very closely to each other. They're in very close proximity. And so it's really easy to pick both at the same time because they're on at the same time. The rose hips are ready to be picked and the elderberries are ready to be picked at the same time. And so it's a really good chance to be able to put them together. So,
isn't that amazing, Keith? I think about that and the timing that God put together with those and how well they work together. It's pretty amazing to me. That works.
And if you have wild echinacea too, it's also, you would harvest the root at the same time that you would harvest the rose hips and the elderberries. So if you have that available, then those are on. And the interesting thing is that they're all on in the fall. They're all ready to be harvested in the fall. And that's when our bodies usually need them because that's usually when colds and flus start cropping up. So to me, it's an incredible testimony to me of the love of our Father in heaven has for us, that He gives us those things and places them in the right time to help take care of us.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Kalea. All that information is so great to have and to be able to remember for future use.
Elderberry syrup is such a beautiful thing because it's so kid-friendly. I think it's one of the most kid-friendly products that we offer because it's such a great go-to. And I really like how Kalea emphasized the early, often, and after. That is huge, especially with something like elderberry syrup. So the way that you make it is that if you're making it from a packet from us, there's about a half to 3/4 cup, usually about 2/3 cup in every packet, depending on how leafy the products are or how condensed the roots and the berries are. It can vary that way, but you can make the same amount no matter how much is in that packet. If you're making it on your own from fresh stuff, remember that all the packets that you get, they're all dried down. So any fresh elderberries that you're making a batch from, you're going to need to use about 2 to 3 times more, simply because the water hasn't been taken out of those products yet to be dried. Now with the packet, it's actually super duper easy to make your own syrup, really easy. You take the packet, you take 4 cups of water or 4 cups of apple juice. I like to use apple juice so that I don't have to add much more sweetener to it afterwards. And you put it on low heat on the stove, and you put your packet in the 4 cups of juice or water and just let it simmer on the stove for about 45 minutes to an hour on low. You don't want to boil it. You don't want to get rid of properties by heating it too high. And then after about an hour, I have to set a timer or I forget. So I would suggest that you set a timer. Then you can go and kind of smash. I like to smash everything down just to make sure everything's secreted out. And then if you want to leave it on for a little bit longer, just on really low, you can do that. I've left it up to about 2 hours before. But then after that, you don't want to cause it to evaporate too much. So after that is done, then you take it out and you need a straining cloth. You can use napkins, or you could use coffee filters, or you can use muslin cloth, lots of different types of cloth. And you make sure to have a jar or a bowl available, and put the cloth over the jar or bowl and pour it in so that the liquid strains through into your container. And then you'll have the pulp left over, and you can discard the pulp, and then you've got just your liquid. And to that, you can add raw maple syrup or raw honey or any other possible natural sweetener. If you're using it, obviously, for children that are under 2 years, you're going to want to use something else besides honey. And I usually, because I have kids younger than 2 years, I'll just split up. When I'm done with making the syrup, I'll split it up so that one jar is appropriate for 2 years and younger, and one jar is for 2 years and older.
When you use the apple juice, do you add the sweetener still?
I don't have to add as much. My kids now are at the point where I don't really add very much sweetener at all. Maybe another 1/8 of a cup. But their tongues have changed since I started using it. If somebody's just barely starting to use it, I would say add 1/4 of a cup and give a teaspoon to your child. And if they complain about it being too bitter, or you try it, and if it's too bitter to you, then just add a little bit more sweetener. And probably add 1/4 of a cup at a time, because it can get sweet pretty quickly. And it's okay, especially like raw honey. Raw honey is great for when somebody is sick or has any type of cold or cough or anything like that. So don't be afraid of using that. Okay, so that's pretty much how we make it. Do you guys have any other thoughts with that before I go on to something else?
When I make it, I make it with water instead of apple juice. We're beekeepers, so I have access to honey more than most people, and so I just use the honey, and I have 2 reasons for doing that. One is because we have it, and 2 is because, well, I guess 3, the medicinal properties within honey, which kind of wraps up in the next one. But I'd read somewhere, and I need to find the actual reference for this, that they have done studies and found that honey is actually just as effective as like any cough syrup that you can buy. And so that's another reason why I put mine in it. And one of the bigger reasons why I say this is because I just want to point out that the more that you make these things, the more that you'll kind of get your own way of making it. So like Andrea does it one, I do it in another way, and neither one is wrong. It's kind of like when you've been cooking a certain recipe and you've made it 10 times, and you hardly even need to reference the recipe anymore. You just know it in your head, and you know, I can, if I only have 1/4 of a cup of this, and I know it's going to work out just fine. It's that sort of idea. The more that you make it, the more you get to know it, that you might change it a little bit from how we just explained, and that's fine.
That's a good point, Kate. I really appreciate you bringing that up, because there's so many times where someone who's especially just getting started with herbs, and I remember feeling this way, just kind of being freaked out if it wasn't exactly right, you know, because of the way that Western medicine thinks about portions and doses and stuff like that, where you get like Benadryl and you can only have 1 teaspoon for this amount of time, and herbs are very different from that. It's a lot more loose.
Because they're soup.
Yeah, and because they're food, and maybe loose is the wrong term, it's a lot more personable. You can make it for what you feel like is best for your family, which is awesome, right? Mm-hmm. Mom, what about you? Do you have any other thoughts about that?
I do have a thought, but I'm going to wait and see what you have to say to see if you cover it anyway.
Oh, okay. So after making it, Mom, what the other two things that you want me to cover were when and how, right?
How to use it, like how much you give to your children versus you as an adult, and when you use it.
Okay. So for a child, about 5 to 6 years and under is a teaspoon for a dose. For like my Gabriel, he's almost 9 years old. I have started to give him tablespoons at this point because his body, he's a pretty thick kid, so his body's hefty to handle it, and I have felt like when I've given him a teaspoon, it hasn't been enough, where a tablespoon is more appropriate for him, and for me, that a tablespoon is appropriate for me. That is a dose. How often that you give those doses really depends on what you're experiencing. So here's a good example. Last year, there was a cold going around my neighborhood, and I knew that it was going around. Everybody was talking about it, that, oh, yeah, this cold has gotten me down. I hate it, la, 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 you know. So I was like, okay, there is a clue. Like, you want to keep your eyes and ears open for clues in order to get a jump on health. I knew it was going around, so I got out an elderberry syrup packet, and I made some syrup, and I gave my kids doses twice a day. They were not sick. They had not gotten a cold. I just wanted to give them a boost. And elderberry and echinacea are not a long-term thing that you take every day. It's just for periods of time. And so I gave them a boost for about 2 weeks, and then we were done. And it was great. And they did not get sick last fall, which I do account to obviously healthy living, healthy eating, water intake, and then being able to boost their system through herbs. That's a good example of when that you want to just boost their system. So a different example is a couple years ago, my Talia, she gets colds and chest colds a lot faster than my other kids. She's just always been a little bit weaker that way. Well, a couple years ago, she came down with a cold where she got all sniffly. And mind you, this is a couple of years ago when I didn't jump on it quite as fast as I could have. But she started to get sniffly. And about on day 2, where I noticed that her runny nose wasn't stopping, that's when I thought, okay, I need to get out my elderberry syrup. So I got out the elderberry syrup. And because she was already demonstrating symptoms, and so because of that, I gave her I gave her doses more often. I gave her a teaspoon of elderberry syrup every hour for 24 hours. Then after 24 hours, I backed off and gave it to her with every meal. And then I gave it to her with every meal for about 3 days, and then I backed off again and just gave it to her once or twice a day for another week. And I usually keep sticky notes that I'll just kind of keep by the jar so I can keep track of when I gave it to them. That helps me so that I don't forget. That helped her enough to be able to boost her and get her past it with a more concentrated dose. Now, if a child is having an issue with a cold or a cough, and it's at the very beginning stages, this is something that Keith mentioned too with cytokine. It's when it's at the beginning stages of a sickness or an illness, elderberry is super effective. It's a great expectorant. It's a great natural immunity booster. It does so many things for fighting viruses, fighting bacteria, all those things. And beginning stages are appropriate to use elderberry. Something that a lot of people don't know about is that once you get past the very first stages of an illness and it starts to get deeper inside of your system, especially with coughs and lung issues. Your body can start to fight against you once it gets to be really more of an advanced illness. If it's advanced, if a child or a grown-up has been sick with a very deep cough that is not loose, it's tight, and it's not going away, and it's been that way for 3, 4, 5 days, not getting better, then you want to back off from elderberry and you need to use some different herbs to be able to get past that. Now, obviously, we are not here to fight against doctors. We are not those kind of natural-minded people. There's a lot of natural-minded people that are like, don't go to a doctor ever. We say follow your gut instinct. If someone has been sick for a long time and your gut instinct is saying to go to a medical professional, we encourage you to do so. You got to follow those instincts as a mother, as a father, as the protector of your children and your family. We like to see naturopaths first. Obviously, that's kind of more the way we lean. But as a family doctor or anything like that, follow through with what you feel like is best. However, with this advanced illness, what can happen is a cytokine storm. Now, we don't really have time to go over the details of the cytokine storm today, but we do have a great blog post on it on our website that it's called Cytokine Storm and Herbs, Life or Death Information is the name of the blog post. And it goes into what a cytokine storm is, how your immune system, when it gets to be more advanced illness, it can kind of become this runaway freight train where a high fever, massive inflammation, extreme fatigue, vomiting, diarrhea, all of those really bad, hefty signs of illness start to take over and your body starts to work on overdrive, that it can be a very dangerous situation. So we encourage you to go to that blog post, read all the way through it so that you can get familiar with it. And probably in another blog post or another podcast, we will have time to go over that more specifically. So that was a lot, spewing information. Clay and Mom, do you have any other thoughts of that?
Yes, just to wrap it up, I mean, this is a lot of information, but just to go back to what Andrea was first saying, to keep it simple, elderberry syrup is something that you want to take when you first start getting the sniffles, or like she said, when you kind of start hearing things like, oh, your friends start saying, oh, we're getting sick, that's when you want to take it. But if you've been sick for a week or two and you're like, oh, I can't get over this, I better take some elderberry syrup, that's not the right time. It's when you first start getting sick. So just to keep it simple, just remember that.
That's a perfect way to sum it up. I was thinking the same thing, Clay. I'm glad you articulated that so well. Thank you. And with that, do either of you have anything else you want to say about this?
Awesome. It was one of the things I started making. So it's really good for beginners. It's really user-friendly.
I think elderberry syrup was the first thing we all kind of started on, wasn't it? Wasn't it the first mix that we really put together?
Yeah, it's the first mix that I recommend to people when they get started with herbs. It truly is fast, easy, helps you get your mind wrapped around how to use herbs in your daily life. It's really a great one to start with.
It really is. Okay, well, thanks both of you for chatting with us about this, and we'll talk to you all soon.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Natural Medicine Mamas. If you have any questions, please go to naturalmedicinemamas.com and reach out to us. Thank you for tuning in, and have a blessed day.